Hey, good morning. I'm Sarah from Helping Babies Sleep. I'm a sleep consultant with 8 years of health education training. And please forgive me this morning. I've got a very sore throat, and I'm really ready for spring. I don't know about you, but this weather across this country is killing me. And so I'm wearing my springiest, most colorful sweater in honor of today. So today I want to talk about different types of sleep training techniques. And so the first thing, before we get to the techniques, we should really talk about why do people sleep train, and what does that even mean? And this is a really hotly personal topic that can throw the most innocuous play date sideways with really passionate opinions about sleep training. And when to sleep train is really a personal choice. It comes down to a few things. You realize that you can't go on the way you were going on, whether that be because of waking many times through the night to rock or nurse or pop that pacifier back in to get your child to sleep, or taking a really long time to get your child to sleep. And essentially, people sleep train because they realize that their child has some sort of a sleep crutch. So a sleep crutch is something external that your child uses to help relax him or her into sleep. So for example, nursing to sleep, or even to drowsy, having a pacifier, touch, for example, sleeping on someone, or even sleeping beside someone, and motion, sleeping on the go in the stroller or in the car or in the swing. So people realize that they need to remove that sleep crutch to give their child the opportunity to develop some sort of self-soothing skill. And a self-soothing skill could be something like sleeping in a certain position. We always put kids down on their backs, but we do find that most kids eventually like to sleep on their stomach when they're ready. So that can be soothing to them. Tactile measures, taking their hands and rubbing a piece of material between their finger and their thumb can be very soothing. And that's why you see those little 6-inch by 6-inch security blankets in the stores, and often they have silk on one edge because the material is soothing to them. Rubbing their head into the back of the mattress, or sometimes even moaning or groaning or blowing bubbles, all things that kind of relax them so that they can drift off into sleep. So once you've established that, one, you can't go on the way you're going on anymore, right? You're thinking that you and your baby are a unit, and if it's really too far out of balance, someone is suffering, either you or him or her, and that could be with, fractured nighttime sleep. You could look at your child and realize that they've got bags under their eyes because they're just not getting enough sleep. So you realize you have to sleep train. And now where do you start? There's lots of free stuff on the internet, and there's lots of great books out there that have different sleep training techniques. So I'm going to talk to you today kind of about the 4 main premises of sleep training, the 4 ones that people commonly talk about. And sleep training really is on a continuum because there are a number of different methods that vary from kind of more extreme to very what's the word I'm looking for? Attentive, let's say. And depending on your baby's temperament, you have to choose which one is best for you. Their temperament and their age will have an impact on how successful your technique will be. Really, almost any technique will work if you have the time and the patience to see it through. And sometimes time and patience just aren't available to you anymore, and that may be time when it's time to kind of switch what you've been doing and try something else. So on the more extreme end of things, we've got the cry it out. And cry it out, in today's media and social media is used very interchangeably. So to me, cry it out means to close the door and not go back in. And that is synonymous with extinction. And I don't really think, I'm not even really sure that should qualify as a technique because you're basically disengaging. And to be honest, it's not something that I personally promote because I always try to imagine life from the eyes of the child. And if I'm that child, I want acknowledgement. I want to know that I've been heard. And so I don't really promote that. I know lots of people that have done this successfully. And again, child's temperament can play effect in how effective that would be. So that's the one end. And then on the other end, we've got like the No Cry Sleep Solution by Elizabeth Panley. And the idea here is that there's no tears. So anytime your child fusses, you are right there offering reassurance in some way and helping them back to sleep. And in my practice, I work with parents who are tired, frazzled, and often have tried something already. And I usually see people who have tried that and it did not work. So I don't have a good success rate. I don't see a good success rate with that type of technique because it takes so long to work. I think it can be effective in like the newborn stage. If you think of it as fading and, after 8 or 9 weeks, you're trying to fade your child off their passy dependency, then it can be used then. The idea would be that you're pulling out that pacifier just before he's asleep so he gets used to falling asleep without it in his mouth, and then he's not surprised when he wakes in the middle of the night and it's not there. So that is the no-cry sleep solution. Okay, so we got our two ends. And basically there's, a variety of different things in the middle. The next one up from, say, the no-cry sleep solution would be something called the attended method or the sleep lady shuffle. And basically in this scenario, you're with your child until he or she falls asleep. So you're offering verbal and physical reassurance until she falls asleep. So you're right there in the room with her, letting her know she's been heard, doing what you can to help her soothe. And then over the course of a number of nights, you're moving yourself further and further away from her crib. And I like this technique. I think it's great for kids who have been co-sleeping. I think it's great for really little kids. I feel that after about 7 or 8 months though, most kids are more irritated by having mom or dad near them and not having them pick them up. So it can drive some kids crazy that you're sitting there and not giving her or him what she wants. But it's definitely a great technique that can be used. And then from the attended method, the next one up would be something like Ferber. So in Ferber's book, Dr. Ferber, How to Solve Your Sleep Problems, basically he's doing interval checks on your child. So the first night you might start with like a 3-minute check, a 5-minute check, a 7-minute check, and a 10-minute check. You're going in, letting your child know he or she has been heard, so important, and then leaving the room and putting your timer on and going back to check. And then the second night you start at 5 minutes and you start elongating the intervals, so they're getting longer. And the third night you go in at like 7 minutes. You're waiting longer and longer each night. So by the end of your, let's say 10th night, your first check is at 20 minutes. And again, this can be quite effective interval checks. Interval checks I find work faster. They kind of like decrease the length of your sleep training number of days compared to the sleep lady shuffle or the attended method. It just depends what your child's age is, temperament, and what you feel comfortable with, right? Because with all of these sleep training things, you have to feel like you can succeed and carry this through. The worst thing you can do is like try for a couple of nights and then stop, or let her cry for 45 minutes and then pick her up and nurse her, because then you've just kind of taught her or him that she needs to sleep longer or needs to cry longer, protest longer to get what she wants. So if you're going to do sleep training, you want to commit and see it through. Okay, so we talked about Elizabeth Pantley's no-cry sleep solution. We talked about the attended method. We talked about Ferber. And then there's just regular intervals where you kind of maintain like a 5, 10, 15-minute check every night. And I really like this kind of a technique. It's consistent. You let them know they've been heard. It's so consistent they know what to expect. Yes, there's always outliers that kind of just don't progress with that. Very rare. Most kids do very, very well with this. And then we're back to, on that final end of thing, again, we're back to that cry it out, which again, I don't really believe in, which is closing the door and not going back in. So, excuse me, the problem with a lot of these books is that they give you the technique, but they don't really tell you, they leave out, details about step-by-step plan, how to manage your night. For example, when you night feed, does your child still need to night feed? They don't usually have those ideas in the book. They often don't have what one of the comments that I got on my other post was, how do I know, what do I do when she wakes up? It's fine that I got her to sleep, but what happens next? What happens through the night? And the answer to that question is that you do what you did at bedtime to get them to fall back asleep. Same for naps. It's all about consistency. Often I hear, should I do naps at the same time as nighttime? And the answer is yes. You want to start at nighttime when the drive to sleep is the strongest. Set your messaging there about how and where sleep happens, and then carry it through the next day with your nap put down and nap extensions if needed. Some people who are in really bad places may put the naps off because they want to have their child at least getting some daytime sleep so they're not exhausted by bedtime. But on average, most of you will do fine with doing nights and then naps the next day. It's one consistent message. It makes it easier for your child to learn and understand what is going on. So that's about, and then the other question I had was, okay, so I get him to sleep, but how do I keep him staying asleep? So the root of the issue with staying asleep is to ask yourself, why are these wake-ups happening? Okay, and it can be different depending on age. So the most common one is that your child wakes up every 3 hours at night. And that's because he or she is coming out of a nighttime sleep cycle and looking for help falling back asleep. So however she got drowsy or fell asleep at bedtime, she needs that in the middle of the night. So often I hear from parents who say, well, I don't nurse to sleep. She's definitely awake when I put her in the crib. I say, okay, hang on. When did you nurse? Was your nursing as part of that bedtime routine? If she is calm or relaxed from the nursing, she will expect that same feeling or need that same feeling when she wakes 3 hours later surfacing from one sleep cycle. She'll need that same feeling to fall back asleep. All humans wake through the night. Think about yourself. You roll over, you check the clock, you reposition yourself. It's the same with your kids. And if they don't have self-soothing techniques, they won't be able to fall back down. So the first reason of why kids don't stay asleep is that whole conditioning to what they need to fall asleep. Then the second reason you have night wakings is being overtired. So if your child isn't getting enough 24-hour sleep, and I have a sleep chart that I can send you the link to, which shows how many hours your child needs in 24 hours. So for example, it's right here. I'll show this to you. Okay, so for example, right, your 8-month-old needs 14 to 14.5 hours of total 24-hour sleep. So if you add up the naps and the nights, that's what she needs to be well rested. If she's below that, even by 45 minutes, it can be harder for her to fall asleep and stay asleep. Okay, my prime example, this is like imprinted in my mind, was when my little guy was like 4 months and I had to rock him to sleep, and it would take me like 40 minutes to get him to fall asleep, red flag, and then he woke up 20 minutes later. Totally classic overtired. So I was keeping him awake too long before bed, and that's a very common parenting error, right? We have this idea that bedtime should be after dad comes home and we all have this family meal. You know, kids this age, they often need to be asleep between like 6 and 7:30 at night, because most kids wake up between 6 and 7 o'clock in the morning based on their circadian rhythm. And if you think that they all need 11 to 12 hours of overnight sleep, that's putting you back to sleep earlier. All right, I totally just lost my train of thought. If you're watching, feel free to post any questions that you may have. I'm happy to answer some. So we were talking about what causes those nighttime wake-ups. Okay, so those are the main two. And then after about 7 months, there's all kinds of things that can start to interfere with sleep. Teething will interfere with sleep. So your child surfaces from a sleep cycle and then is distracted by the discomfort in her teeth and can't fall back asleep. Motor development is a huge one. So when they start to hover and crawl and pull up, those are all things that cause night waking. And often they manifest as your child kind of like playing in the crib for an hour, content, maybe whining a little bit on and off, but not going back to sleep. And it can drive people crazy. And I want you to remember, it's not your job to make your child sleep. It's your job to teach her how to fall asleep and then create the conditions for that. So when they're going through all these motor development things, you're not going to be going in there, assuming you've already done sleep training, you're not going to be going in there and rocking her back to sleep and making her sleep. No, she's just got to process this through. Okay, it's just got to let it happen. It's painful, yes, but everybody goes through it. So teething, motor development can all cause middle of the night waking. Excuse me. And then as you get into the toddler years, language bursts around 22 months. There's another regression around 15 months, this I want power type of toddler thing that can all cause night wakings. Okay, so back to the different types of sleep training techniques. There's something I want to tell you about. So you've got these books, these great books that can tell you, different techniques on how to fall asleep, but they don't give you step-by-step instruction. And that's why I created my online course called Baby Sleep Training Step by Step. And the purpose of this is to give you the theory and the practice of what to put into place. So step one is figuring out why sleep is a struggle for you. And I kind of touched on that earlier. Does your child have a sleep crutch? Is she overtired, not getting enough sleep, which is making her have trouble falling asleep and then staying asleep? Step two is so important. This is what the books miss. It's setting up for success. What is reasonable for your child based on her age and her feeding habits? When can a breastfed baby sleep 11 to 12 hours without a night feed? I personally don't think it's until closer to 8 to 9 months when you're getting solids well established. Formula feeders are far different. You can really track those ounces through the day and understand what their caloric intake is. So often I see formula fed kids going through the night 11 to 12 hours, that's my definition, around, even as early as 4 months sometimes, but more commonly 5 months. So that's step 2. What is reasonable? How many naps does your child need by age? How do you extend the nap? So that's part of step 3, which is the sleep training, nighttime, and naps. So how are you going to know when to feed your baby? How are you going to be consistent about delivering the same message about how sleep happens? What do you do if you feed her one time when she wakes up and not another time, right? So that's something that I'll cover in my course, Baby Sleep Training Step by Step. And then step 4, I take you through all the sleep regressions that can happen and how you can manage them. So you can know what to expect, know what it's going to look like, and then how you're going to maintain your boundaries while still offering comfort to your child, right? Because we don't just leave them ever. We always let them know that they've been heard, and we offer reassurance. So in this course that I've created online, you can do it on your phone or your laptop. It's 2.5 hours of video where it's voiceover slides. So I have slides because I don't know about you, but now I'm so distracted by everything after having kids. I need to see what I'm hearing. So it's my voiceover slides with some videos, but it also gives you a 60-page ebook to download to go with it, so it can guide you through it as you go. And the best part about it is that then you go into my private Facebook group, not the general group that I host on Facebook currently. It's a private group where I answer your specific questions about sleep. And you've got other moms who have gone through the exact same course as you, who are sharing the same philosophy and the same references, right? Because there's so many different opinions out there. And it's the Facebook group where you really feel that support, that self-confidence, and you get rid of that self-doubt that can often plague people, during sleep training. Because at 2 a.m. when your baby's crying, that's when the self-doubt kicks in. Am I doing this right? Is this going to work? All that kind of stuff. So anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to post them. But I will also put a link to my awake time chart and a link to my online sleep training course if you are interested in taking a look at that. Thanks for watching.